Hello and welcome to Warblog. This is a tutorial on the new artillery rules. I've done this a few times now, so hopefully I'll get it right this time. I'll go through the rules first, why not? The rules are sort of changed, so artillery has ranged fire, blah blah blah, up to 4 hexes. Artillery is different to how it used to be, but if you're new to the game you won't know how it used to be. But I will be bearing in mind that there are some changes to explain the rationale behind it. When artillery fires into a hex, it stands, and there are multiple units in that hex, it stands essentially a decreasing chance of hitting each and every unit in that hex. So this is a penalty to some extent for putting a lot of units in one hex. You can have a very small artillery piece that can basically affect all of it, but the chances decrease. If you hit, you then calculate the base factors for damage, which again increase. So we'll come back to that in a minute. We'll have a look at this one first. See whether I can move some units around. Play now. Move some units. Doesn't really matter whether I get all of these units into play. I'm going to put this one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's in range of both. I won't be able to attack that one yet. But so, essentially, okay. So essentially, the way it used to work, we would calculate factors. For example, if I was to attack into there, I would be attacking with 3 strength, but there's no mechanized, so I would have a sort of a factor of 1.5, so it would be about 4.5 attacking in, but his defense would be 3 plus 4 doubled up in light urban to 8, doubled up with entrenchments would be 16, so 4 against 16 would be crappy odds. But I would have also this artillery unit with an attack strength of 3 to help, so that would give me a 4.5, 6, 7, 7.5 against 16, so that would be 1 to 2, still not good odds. I could almost get this artillery piece in as well, which would give me 10 to 16, which is still 1 to 2, or maybe 1 to, yes, 1 to 2, something like that. It doesn't matter. Anyway, not good odds, but the point is, if I was to just attack this artillery piece into there, 3 against 16, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And this isn't even heavily defended. You know, the next thing I'd do in this sort of scenario would be to move something to my mouse. To move this little it's dragging. Anyway, move this little unit up into there, and you know, the artillery was pretty useless, but now it's different. So now when I fire into there, I fire at each unit. They still get the defensive factors, etc, etc. So let's just go through the process of that. So I do have my mechanized unit, which I could use, but I don't want to. I've got 2 units that I can bring to bear on that. One is fully moved, I think, yeah, because he crossed the river, so he's got no movement, so he can't engage. Now, instead of actually, they're times 4, so instead of actually saying, okay, I'm going to fight this at 3 plus 1, which is 4, doubled up in urban, which is 8, doubled up with the fortification, 16, it doesn't work like that now. They're still doubled up, so this one would be 3, doubled up to 6, doubled up to 12, so with that 3 I would be 1 to 4, but I could use both of these and get a 1 to 2. It's still not brilliant odds, but the thing is, it's worth a crap shot, but I still get the go at this one here. Now he's worth 1, doubled up in urban makes that 2, doubled up again in entrenchments makes that 4. Now here I would be at 1 to 3, or 1 to 2, but I could put both of these in and get a 1 to 1 on that. Now to go back to the table here, to put that into perspective, the first unit I've got 80% chance of hitting. So I've got an 80% chance of hitting this unit here. The second unit I've got a 65% chance of hitting. Now on this one, because of the odds, it's not too brilliant, but I'm not sure where I'm calculating the odds properly. So let me put in both of these units. So that would be a fire factor of 6, and he has a defensive factor there, infantry of 3, which would be 6, 12, so that would be 1 to 2. But on this one, my factors would be more like 1 to 1. So let's just see what actually happens, because now I'm questioning myself. Okay, so essentially on the first unit I got 0.6 damage, which sort of falls into this range here of 0.1 up to 1 damage. So that was halfway through. On this one, where I had the 1 to 1 odds, I could have scored anything from 0.2 all the way up to 2. So that's how that works. Now he's now at depression 0.6, depression 1, and this, although I might adjust the actual damage and well, basically the damage and chance of probability of hitting, etc. That's how it works. It gives artillery a much more potent capability of hitting essentially large stacks, but also playing a role in causing quite a lot of damage on units, but not being able to hit all of the units in a stack. The dilemma that I've sort of got in my mind's eye is that if you have say 20 units in here, you're going to hit something. You're more likely to actually hit. The more units there are, the more likely you are to hit something, and that doesn't actually, this doesn't solve that problem. But the larger the units, the less significant the damage that you will do, and that sort of does balance that out. So essentially, this prevents you from basically firing in and having the same effect over all of the units in the stack, but not being able to hit them because you're firing at all of them. So this is basically a 2-stage process, and there's the damage, and that's quite a lot of damage. I mean, if you're firing a lot of artillery at a very small unit, you're pretty much going to decimate it. So might change the damage factors in time, but we'll see how that all works out. Still don't have really the numbers to attack into there, so I'm going to leave that. The only other thing to say here is that the odds were sort of, well, this shouldn't really be saying that, but it was artillery only, just a little indicator as to what's happening there. So now I'm going to try and do a few more attacks. Now if you notice, I initiated that attack by moving the mechanized infantry in, because I know I don't have to commit to that, but there's no artillery that I can use there. So that is all of my attacks done. I'm not going to bother with anything else, so I'm going to move on to the Donetsk People's Republic's turn. Now they've got artillery that they can fire. 1, 2, 3, 4. He can actually fire his artillery at that. So now I actually saw a video of this actual battle, the Donetsk People's Republic. I wonder which one I'm firing with. Well, let's see what we can do here, because he's actually in the open. He's worth 3, so I should be on 2 to 1 against that, which gives me. I've only got the 80% chance of hitting, because it all calculates into 1. This is 1 barrage. I should be able to get between 1 and 2. So I'm guaranteed, in effect, to do 1 damage. And there I did 1 damage. So I had a chance of doing 1 or 2, and I did 1. Now, the thing that I'm still sort of contemplating this, but basically artillery now becomes fairly lethal, and I think it is. You've got this sort of piece of machinery, miles away, that can just inflict pain and suffering on an entire region, and there's nothing you can do about it. And when artillery shells are falling, people do run away, and people do get blown up. It has a major effect, and I'm hoping that will sort of at least balance things out. So on this one, basically I was going for the artillery there. 3 versus 1 gave me 3 to 1 odds. Obviously I hit. 3 to 1 odds could have given me a 1 to a 3. I got 3 depressions on that. So that is pretty much how artillery works. If you've been playing this game or watching it for a while, you'll note that as an improvement. It changes the game significantly. I'm not sure. I haven't played it long enough to figure out how significantly, but a lot of everything does focus around artillery. Artillery is incredibly powerful, and it can now do a hell of a lot more. It might sound incredibly powerful in this instance, and from what I'm sort of talking about here, but you've got to remember there is counter-battery artillery. Artillery units in the middle of a field are fairly vulnerable, so you go through stages. I think I'm just talking off the top of my head here, but with regards to developing a superiority in certain areas, for example, air superiority. The first thing that goes on is people determine air superiority by attacking each other's air bases before anything else happens. That's what happened in the India-Pakistan War, as well as the quite a lot of other major conflicts, 7-Day War and a few others. But I mean, basically, you go for taking out all the enemy's air power. But essentially, after that, I mean, there's no set rules about it. You then start to take out each other's artillery. And in this case, that's how I would be playing it and thinking about it, because you can just sit there and fire artillery, and if they can't do anything about it, you're just going to suffer until you've got no choice other than to retreat. But in this instance, I've delivered some barrages into there, but this unit is actually well defended. He's mixed up with other units, which makes it less certain that you're actually going to hit him. But this one's in the open, so I got 3 to 1 against that. I'm certain to hit him because he's on his own. So basically, it does force him to sort of maybe move into, say, an urban area where he gets a little more defense, and to put other units with him to give him that sort of added protection. The only possible sort of drawback, let's see, go on to the next turn, and it's just the way the game has been sort of set up, really. It all depends on the order that these units are in. So if I had 10 units across here, this unit is always going to be number 1, this unit is always going to be number 2. It all depends basically on where I put the units in play. So this, just to make it really simple to see it, if you go back into the home screen and actually look at the order of battle, if these 4 units are all in the same place, this one would be first, second, third, and fourth. So if I put these units together, this would always be first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So these ones would always be at the bottom. But if I put this unit with these 3 units, this one will be at the top. There's no way of ordering that stacking, and certainly not at the moment. And it's a bit of a, that's just the way the rules work at the moment, and so just have to live with it. Anyway, so that's an overview of the artillery. It has changed. It doesn't really affect the way you play it. You still play it in the same way. You still move your units around, but hopefully that should give a little more potential for really sort of getting your head around how artillery works. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Speak later. Cheers, mate.